Mazda has a ton of momentum going on right now with the introduction of the CX-90, the upcoming CX-70 here in North America, but they just killed off one of their newest models. Let's get into it. Over the Mazda newsroom, Mazda MX-30 discontinuation. It's only been on the market, maybe 2 years at this point. I never actually drove this vehicle because it couldn't get from Miami to my house. It is a fully electric vehicle, at least in the form we have in America. It just came out as a rotary extended plug-in hybrid in other markets around the world. Yes, they brought the rotary back for the first time, I think, in 11 years or more. Maybe was it 2012? Yeah, that's 11 years since the discontinuation of the RX-8. So in other markets, it gets a more powerful electric motor. It's still front wheel drive, but I think it's a pretty attractive MX-30, nice interior, is going by the wayside. Why is Mazda doing this? Well, the sales have been terrible. We'll go over the sales in a little bit, but Mazda will discontinue MX-30 EV for the US market following the 2023 model year. So if you want a little piece of history, and it's pretty much a glorified golf cart with 100 miles of range, maybe you can get your hands on one for a sweet deal now that it's being killed off. So their current US electrification efforts are focused on large platform plug-in hybrids, such as the CX-90 plug-in hybrid. I'm dying to drive it, as well as the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. It'll be a two-row version of the CX-90, as well as finally introducing the CX-50 hybrid into their lineup. So man, out of all those vehicles, the CX-50 hybrid is probably the one they need the most to compete against the RAV4 hybrid, the Venza, as well as the Honda CR-V hybrid. All of those are fantastic hybrids, and Mazda is supposed to be using Toyota's hybrid technology in the CX-50. Okay, so we're going to look at the first half of sales so far in 2023 for Mazda. They're doing great, but this is about the MX-30. They've only sold about 16 in the month of June compared to 23 in the month of June of last year. So they're down 30% on the month, and they've only sold 66 this year compared to 316 last year. So they are down 79% on the now defunct MX-30. And within 200 miles of where I live, there are exactly 0 MX-30s. Well, right there, they've only sold less than 100 so far this year. If we look in the entire country, there are 17 still available out there. Of course, they are they're not that expensive for an electric car, but you get about a third of the battery compared to some more competitive models out there, or at least a third of the range. So $39,000, $33,000. This thing, in my opinion, is about a $20,000 car at best because of its limited usability. In comparison, there are 1,105 plug-in hybrids of the CX-90, which is a far more usable vehicle. Now, it's not as cheap as the MX-30, but man, is it far more practical. 3 rows of space, excellent size in on the outside as well as the inside. Well, compared to the MX-30, that is. Maybe not against its competitors. A lot of people like to dog in the new CX-90 because its interior isn't quite as roomy, but I was able to throw my entire family in there, and we came out loving this vehicle. At least the inline 6, despite its quirks, I mean, it's not the smoothest powertrain for sure, and that's why I really want to try out the plug-in hybrid to see if it's even better. So Mazda is really focusing on their plug-in hybrids, killing off their pretty much pointless MX-30. Rest in peace. No one is going to miss it. It was a half-baked attempt, and the rotary edition, a rotary version of it, would be far more desirable, and I think a lot of people would be actually interested in that, to have a rotary once again, a little bit of nostalgia, and it's perfectly fine as a plug-in hybrid, and it takes care of its biggest weakness, 100 miles of range. Now you have about I think it's around 60, 70 miles of range, and then you have the little rotary engine, single rotor on board to take you the distance with a gasoline counterpart. Earlier this month, Mazda's CEO, Masahiro Moto, was talking about how they're not really excited about EVs. Essentially, they're going to wait. He said, instead of becoming a front runner in the shift to EVs, we will become a follower with a vision. I mean, that's kind of what Toyota is doing. Toyota has to be a little bit more forward since they make so many more vehicles. But Mazda's sitting back, waiting for the pieces to fall. Then they'll go forward with the right technology at the right time. They will be using Panasonic batteries. There's a lot of talk going around with Panasonic and Mazda. So Panasonic needs to build another plant in North America. They have the one in Nevada with Tesla. They have one building right now in Kansas, and then they need two more. We know another one's supposed to come online in 2027, and they're also Panasonic, that is eyeing Subaru to get on board. So we'll probably see more Japanese automakers use Panasonic by the end of the decade, especially with the U.S. sourced batteries. Speaking of U.S. EVs, General Motors is very upset with the potential emissions regulations crackdowns going on, and they could be getting fined. Well, the whole industry could be getting fined $100 billion to $300 billion in penalties from 2027 to 2031. I mean, if the government wasn't making money from EVs, then they wouldn't be pushing them. They know it's going to be hard for automakers to shift to EVs. One, because there's no money in it. Look at what Ford is going on. Since there's no money in EVs for them at this point in time, they're actually stalling their rollout of electric vehicles since they're bleeding billions of dollars, and they're going to be focusing on hybrids, quadrupling their hybrid output, which makes a lot of sense. It's far more practical for most people. So back to this article, the government wants to make money off of the automotive industry, and what better way to force really strict emissions regulations that are unrealistic for these automakers, and it's just not looking good. Because what is this going to do for the consumer? Well, it's going to make cars more expensive. Cars need to be more affordable, especially with these unsure times now and going forward. So it's not looking good, but I'll see you guys down below, and I'll put this article down below if you want to read more into these potential emissions regulations forcing automakers to pay billions to the government, hundreds of billions to the government. So Ford losing billions, like I mentioned a second ago. They have 132 F-150 Lightning sitting on lots within 150 miles where I live. To put that in perspective, there are just 2 Escape plug-in hybrids, which is a far more desirable. Well, I'm comparing apples to oranges here. But if we look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E, there are over 415 within 150 miles that are just sitting on lots. The prices actually aren't going down as much as I thought they would be. $500 price drop. I guess this is about a $3,000 price drop here, but it seems like they've saturated the market for potential Mustang Mach-E buyers, at least with this current model and the specs that it has, and people are probably just buying Teslas instead for a lot of different reasons. And again, that Escape plug-in hybrid, which would be a far more practical vehicle for most people, and let's just go ahead and click on this. I'm curious. Ooh, it is still pretty expensive, well into the 40s, but this sort of vehicle would be more practical, flexible, and desirable for the masses out there. And there are 2 compared to 400 of the Mustang Mach-E. So unless your Tesla electric vehicles right now are looking really bad, whether you're Mazda, Ford, General Motors, to make matters worse, cargo ships with electric vehicles, the electric vehicles are catching fire, burning the ship down. They're losing hundreds of vehicles. So 500 EVs were on board this Panamanian ship transporting vehicles from the Netherlands to Cairo, Egypt. And there were Mercedes and BMW electric vehicles on this ship. And there were over 3,700 vehicles on board, and 500 were electric. And this ship is still burning 17 kilometers from the northernmost Dutch coast. You know, to make matters worse, these EVs are supposed to be better for the environment. Well, that's assuming they don't catch fire, because in these islands where this boat is burning for probably another week, the islands comprise part of the Wadden Sea, a vast area of tidal flats and marshland stretching along Germany and Denmark that is on UNESCO's World Heritage List. So these environmentally friendly EVs are burning down in a World Heritage site. Absolutely despicable. Now, was it the cause of an EV? Well, the Dutch Coast Guard said on its website Thursday that the cause of the fire was unknown. An emergency responder is heard in a recording released by Dutch broadcaster RTL saying the fire started in the battery of an electric car. Okay, so firsthand witness. And the sad thing is that there was a man from India that was a part of the crew, died in this fire, and then many people, well, seven others also jumped overboard, and it's just ridiculous. It's sad to see, and had to throw that in here. Nissan struggling in China really badly here. They were down 46% last quarter, And since their vehicles are not selling over there, they're trying to figure out what to do with the inventory they have. And they're considering exporting their Chinese-made vehicles to Europe, to Southeast Asia, because no one in China wants to buy their cars anymore due to the electrification shift, as well as the startups from China that are absolutely crushing traditional OEMs by the price wars that are going on. Like, it is a crazy Wild West market that's going on with electrification in China. It's kind of fun to see because there's so much shakeup going on, but Japanese automakers are not doing great in China. We mentioned a week ago, Mitsubishi stopped production of cars. They're just not making cars at their 2 or 3 factories that they have over there. Toyota is down about 3% on the year so far. They're the only Japanese automaker that's doing okay, but they're still negative. But I got to shut it down there. A lot of crazy news when it comes to EVs, and most of it pretty bad news, to be honest, with the cancellation of electric vehicles, the hesitation to roll out electric vehicles, the unrealistic emission forcing by the government to cost automakers hundreds of billions of dollars, and the electric environment in China snuffing out existing automakers. It's just crazy environment right now. Hopefully they can stop that fire on that boat on the UNESCO heritage site caused by EVs as well. Got shut down there. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you're subscribed for more electric vehicle news as well as industry auto news. Most of the industry auto news at this point is around electric vehicles due to either regulations or new models coming out and business plans around electric vehicles. So thank you guys for watching. Catch you in the next one. Have a great day and peace.